The family lake house sits along the southern edge of Lake Champlain in Vermont, tucked away behind rolling green hills. I used to spend every year here when I was a boy. I've watched the trees dance with the wind for days, waiting. I spent most of my years struggling as a failed writer. I worked meaningless, dead-end jobs, staying up all night writing. I spent countless hours going down the lists of magazines and publishers accepting work. Much to my misfortune, I never made any progress. My stories sat for years in a meaningless pile, in an unmarked folder on my desktop. I used to look at that folder as if it were the North Star. Yet, as my submissions remained unanswered, my guiding star's light began to fade. It faded to black, oozing with disdain. With my inbox gathering cobwebs, I felt my ideas start slipping away. I used to write to escape. I'd use it as a metaphorical means to pack my bags, get on a plane or a boat to wherever I created. In my mind, I could go anywhere. I sat in my lonesome apartment, staring at the computer screen, forgetting how to formulate words. I had nothing, nowhere to escape. I winced over the brightness of another blank page on my screen in the dark. I took a small sip of the iced whiskey on my left, contemplating everything. As the burning waves crashed down into my belly, I heard a soft knock on my closet door. Hello? It was coming from inside. 3 more knocks, deliberately slow, taunting me with its pace. Who's there? One solid knock came from behind the door, shaking the hinges and rattling the frame. A memory exploded in my mind, causing the ocean of whiskey in my belly to surge back up into my throat. 1 knock for yes, 2 knocks for no. No, it couldn't be. It's been years. I'd escaped it for so long. I slammed my laptop shut and blinked forcefully, hoping it would help my eyes adjust to the darkness. Whatever was behind that door felt patient, as if it had been already waiting for years. Who's there? I asked. The silence left a heavy feeling in the air. Resurfacing memories I'd spent so much time forcing out of my consciousness, desperately trying to escape from, were flooding back to me. Those aren't the rules, Noah. Yes or no questions only, remember? I gathered the strength to follow the rules, afraid that the unsettling patience of the presence behind my closet door was wearing thin. Is it really you? It was a question I shouldn't have asked. I didn't want to know the answer, but my mouth spewed the words before I could decide. That heavy feeling in the air shattered like broken glass with a sound. Knock, which meant yes. I shot up out of my chair and slammed into the desk, sending the laptop and whiskey crashing to the floor. I ran my sweaty hand along the wall, desperately searching in the dark for the light switch. I flicked it up and down, frantically calling for the light. Except the switch wouldn't work. The darkness remained, setting the perfect stage for the moon to shine a narrow beam of light through my window. My eyes remained fixed on the door as the moonlight lit up the slat of the closet door on cue. I could see a dark, shadowy figure watching me behind them. A wet, gurgling sound left my skin ice cold. I could see water pooling through the bottom of the door. "Leave me alone!" I screamed, fumbling around the room, searching for pants and shoes. The closet door rattled ferociously from the force of the 2 knocks that followed. Knock, knock, which meant no. No, no, no. I'm not doing this again. I won't. With every no came one resounding slam in defiance, telling me, no, demanding, yes, yes, yes. Yes, you are. Yes, you will. I spent the rest of that entire night driving up here to the lake house, remembering. "Noah, let's play the game again," Jake said excitedly, nudging my arm. "Come on, that was so much fun last time. I was so scared." He looked up at me. Eyes were wide in anticipation, sipping the straw of his apple juice through a tight smile. "Yeah, who will be the drowned boy this time?" I yelled back, just as excited as he was. "I want to be the drowned boy. You got to do it last time." Before I could even respond, Jake bolted up the stone path from the lakeside to the back door of the lake house. I ran to try and follow, but his little feet sputtered as he beat me inside and into our bedroom closet. "Oh man, I hate being on the other side. It's boring. Come on, Jake." A few knocks came from the back of the closet door. He was laughing, but it sounded really strange, almost as if he were choking on a sip of his juice box. Are you old?" Knock, knock. "So, you're a kid. I wonder how old you are. Do you live here too?" Knock. "But we live here. How come I haven't seen you? Are you dead?" There was a dramatic pause. Jake had a flair for the dramatic. It came natural to him. Knock. The knock caught me off guard. "Whoa, you scared me. Do you want to be friends?" Knock. "We should go hang out by the lake," I said, and flung open the doors to the closet. That was usually the end of the game. Except when I opened the doors, there was no one there. Jake ran into the room behind me, gasping for air. "Oh man, you aren't going to take my spot, are you? Mom stopped me for a snack. Were you practicing?" Jake said, chewing something chocolatey. "You know, you really do suck at asking the questions. Want a teddygram?" The closet doors behind me slammed shut, sending a strong gust of wind against my back. Jake stared behind me, slack-jawed and confused. "Is Dad playing?" he said. "No, I thought you were in there." I didn't give any notice to my job or my landlord that I'd come here. I left everything in my apartment, aside from a few pairs of clothes and my laptop. Something tells me I may not need any of it anymore. It's time to face the past. This is where I need to be, whether I wanted this or not. Maybe I can bend like these trees in the wind and dance with the darkness that awaits me here at the lake house. I watched the shoreline on the lake from the back window during the sunset yesterday. It used to feel so serene, leaving me in a timeless state of acceptance, in awe of the ripples and the water from the wind. The shoreline is moving now. I can see it coming closer. It happened so fast. I watched the clock as the sun was slowly lassoed in by the horizon. In 1 hour, the lake had covered what must have been at least 10 feet of ground. The pier where our family boat was docked is still standing, but now there's no way to walk onto it without going into the water. That night, I had a nightmare that I couldn't get away from. I would wake up soaked in sweat, just to fall back asleep right where I'd left off. "Noah?" Jake's voice was shaky. "What's up?" I was fishing on the shore of the lake. I wasn't any good yet, but my dad was, and he bought me my very own rod and reel to practice. He told me, "Use your wrist to flick the rod up as you release and look up at the trees. You'll be a pro in no time." It was pretty good advice, I thought, because when I looked at the trees, my lure didn't smash through the water like it was before. It soared through the sky, and I loved the sound of the reel as the line let out. Look out there." "What's wrong with you, Jake? Are you okay?" I asked as I turned to him. He was pointing out into the lake. "Do you see him?" Jake was trembling. "See who?" "It's him." "Who, Jake? You're scaring me." His eyes were stuck on the water. He didn't blink at all. "It's the drowned boy," he said, still not blinking. "From our game. He wants to play with you. He doesn't want to swim at the bottom of the lake anymore." I looked out of the water and saw a small, black mess of hair floating in the center of the lake. It was slowly floating up, higher and higher, revealing the moldy, rotted face of a boy, smiling. I screamed and turned back to Jake to grab him, throw him over my shoulder, and run to the house. As I went to pick him up, he felt wet. I must not have noticed, but it was no longer Jake that was standing next to me. My fingers dug deep into the sides of soggy fabric, and they easily sunk through even further through the flesh. I looked up to see the same face that was just watching us from the water, his matted black hair messy over his eyes. His skin was grey and old, and sunk loosely over his bones. He tried to speak to me, but all I could hear was a low, guttural, gurgling sound from deep within his throat. "Noah! Noah!" Jake's trailing scream sent a shock down my spine. I looked back out at the water to see my brother splashing in the center of the lake, helplessly trying to stay afloat. Finding courage through instinct, I pushed the boy away from me and ran towards the lake. I jumped in head first and swam towards him as fast as I possibly could. "I'm coming! Keep treading, Jake! Remember, kick your feet, just like Dad said." I was screaming the words between each dive of my head as I swam. "I can't. I can't stay above water." Jake was already swallowing too much water. "It isn't working. Keep kicking, Jake. Come on, I'm almost there." I felt the tears welling up in my eyes, even in the water. I was trying so hard to get to him and bring him back to the shore. I was closing the distance between us when I saw his arms shoot up into the air as his body plunged hard into the water. Bubbles erupted from the surface, and it was all I saw. until I went under. I dove down to find Jake and pull him back up. I knew I was close enough to still save him. I kicked my arms and legs hard, sending my body forward faster than I have ever swam before. I never knew how deep the lake was. The bottom seemed to go on for miles, and the blackness made me feel like I was just a guppy in an ocean of terror. I saw Jake in front of me, still plummeting further down into the darkness below. So many bubbles were coming from his open mouth. I could still hear my name, even here. He was still calling for me. There was a hand made of bone wrapped tightly around his ankle. The boy was here with us, there with him, taking him down, drowning him. I reached out to him, to no avail. I was still too far. He kept sinking, lower and lower, until I couldn't see him anymore. Eventually, I couldn't even see the bubbles. Just like that, he was gone. Jake was gone. The nightmares rained on, and the water is seeping through the crack at the bottom of the back door. A soft, confident sound of running water pulled me out of my dreams. Water was coming into the living room from the back end of the house, travelling through the entire ground floor. I dunked my feet into the water. My breath stopped dead in its tracks from the cold. The current was strong. I struggled to stay on my feet, taking small, deliberate steps forward. A familiar, mousy voice called for me from upstairs. My heart panged. Noah? Hey, Noah! Jake. I know you're down there, bro. Come up and play. I shuddered at the words. I couldn't fight back the tears, or the prickly goosebumps that enveloped my being. Footsteps pitter-pattered down the hall above me, in the direction of our old room, to the closet. I wasn't naive enough to think things could ever go back to the way they were. I think I knew Jake was his now, but I didn't want to face it. I heard a door slowly creak open before slamming shut. I'm coming, buddy. Hang tight, I yelled as I headed up the stairs. When the authorities couldn't find Jake's body, I wasn't surprised. The drowned boy took him, and he wasn't going to let them take Jake away from him. But now, I was back, and I wasn't going to leave my brother again. I turned at the top of the steps and headed down the hall. When I got to our bedroom, I saw the closet door. The knocking already began. Come on, Noah, Jake said. It's me and our friend in here this time. I really didn't want to share, but he wouldn't let us play alone. I told him it would be super confusing, so he agreed to take turns. Okay, if we have to. I didn't want to share either. He'd had him for so long. I'm going to go first. You get to ask me 3 questions, then it's his turn. Choose wisely. Okay, go. I didn't waste any time. Are you okay, buddy? Knock. I've missed you so much. Do you miss me? Knock. Do you want to come home with me and get out of here? Knock. Those 3 questions went so fast. I wish I had more. But I wasn't making the rules. Yet even so, I wasn't afraid anymore. I was there for Jake, and I needed to be strong for him. I spoke to the boy, not playing by the rules, but speaking my mind. I had so much to say to him that I kept bottling up inside for years. I want to keep playing with Jake. I really don't want to ask you any questions. I only want to tell you things. So many things about how I feel. So, here it is. I hate you. I hate that you ruined my life. I hate you for taking my brother from me. I don't know what happened to you. I'm sorry for whatever it was, but it doesn't give you any right to take Jake away from me. I was inching closer and closer to the closet door, so close that my face was almost touching. I heard the gurgling sounds of the boy, and I could feel his presence. He sounded angry with me, but I didn't care. We would have played with you, played this game whenever you wanted, but you were selfish. You had to take him all for yourself. I heard sirens making their way down the long stretch of road up to the lake house. They were quickly gaining traction as I stared at the closet door. There was a new knock. This time loud and urgent, coming from downstairs. He was becoming quicker, more furious with every second. I was halfway down the steps when I heard his muffled voice. "Noah, open that damn door. I know you're in there, goddammit. Open the goddamn door before I take it off the hinges." Dad. I ran down the remaining steps and raced to the front door. I quickly turned back the deadbolt and began to turn the knob. Before I could pull back the door, it smashed me in the face, sending me backwards. I expected the water to break my fall, but the floor was bone dry. "Noah, it's time to go back home, son. You've been gone long enough," my father said, sobbing, his eyes red and drained of happiness. I sat up from the floor, rubbed the back of my head and winced, trying to comprehend his words. "Why are you all wet? What's going on here?" I got to my feet. "Jake's here. I was just playing with him upstairs, like old times," I said to him, reaching out to grab his arm and lead him upstairs. My father ripped his arm away from my hand. "Jake's gone. You know what happened. We've gone over this so many times. Let's take him home. Why can't we just take him home?" "Because he's dead, Noah. He's been dead for years, and I have to try to convince myself every day not to hate you for it." There was a blackness in his eyes as they narrowed. "I tried to save him. I tried to swim out to him and bring him back up, but he was being pulled down by the drowned boy," I exclaimed. My father was becoming angrier with each word. "That's enough about this drowned boy. Do you know what happened? When I came outside after hearing the screams, you had your hand pressed down over his head in that lake." I could see the veins in his neck swelling as he screamed. "You weren't bringing him up. You were pushing him down. You were killing him." "No, that's wrong. It's okay, Dad. I know it's hard," I said softly, trying to calm him down. "He tried to take me too, but I wasn't going to let him take us both." My father let out a short chuckle under his breath and sneered. Well, how convenient for you. Funny how that works, huh, Noah? The guilt must be too much for you. You just can't own up to it. It wasn't true. It couldn't be. Flashes of red and blue lights were coming through the window. I pulled apart the blinds and looked out at them. There were 2 police cars behind my father's old Camaro. My mom was sitting in the passenger seat. She was hunched over with her face in her hands. I could tell. She was crying. I turned back to my father. Dad, just come upstairs with me for 1 minute and I'll show you. You'll see. He's up there waiting for me to come back. God, what did I do to deserve this? My father asked, looking up to the ceiling. He looked back down to me and nodded solemnly. Okay, but for 1 minute. But after that, we are going. The police are waiting. I led him upstairs to the closet. There was a wet, decrepit smell consuming the air that wasn't there before. I gagged as I opened the closet doors to find Jake, lying curled tight on the floor, his body long since rotted and decayed. There were muddy footprints everywhere. The closet door handles were wet and brown. When my father dragged me away and out of that house, my eyes followed the trail of wet mud that led from the closet down the stairs. It went out the back door, and I could see them leading to the lake as they placed me inside the back of a police car. I started to wonder who the drowned boy really was. Did he even exist? Was it me all along? I stare at these padded white walls, wondering. It's all I'm allowed to do since I've been back. When the hospital notified my parents that I was gone, my father checked the old apartment that my parents used to rent out. It looked as if someone had been squatting, living in filth and darkness, but no one was there. He told me that he found a picture of me and Jake sitting on the floor next to an old, dirty mattress in the center of the bedroom. He stayed awake every night waiting for me, hoping maybe I'd come home. But I never did. I wish things could be different. I hear the knocks on the door of my room every night. I'm told not to listen, that they aren't real. I'm told so many things that I don't believe. But they're the professionals. My parents tell me to listen because they know what's best. Knock, knock, knock. They're becoming louder, but no one else hears them. I try again to run, but the restraints are so tight that I can't move. Knock, 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 knock. They tell me every day not to play. But I'm afraid of what will happen if I don't. If I keep playing, it'll never stop, they say. If I stop, Jake will be gone forever. This is all I have to stay connected to him. Hello? The knocking calmed, but continued. Is that you, Jake? Knock. I'm sorry I had to leave. I tried to be with you. Are you okay? Knock, knock. I frowned. Are you upset with me? Knock. Please don't be. I promise I tried. They brought me back here. I was going to stay." A loud, fierce knock came from the wall on the other side of the room. "Jake, are you still there?" Knock. I barely heard Jake's knock as it was drowned by knocks on the walls all around me. I could even hear them coming from the floor below. "Are you alone?" Knock, knock.